Hello and welcome to another video from the fanpub.com.
It's
News
great.
is a breaking, isn't it?
It's all coming off. I mean, we got lots to talk about because the last few days, as always, once the camp starts, suddenly players start getting small tweaks, injuries, and God knows what else happens, even more serious stuff. And we're going to try and cover off all that in this video. It'll have to be short, punchy, and quite quick, but well worth the watch, particularly if you're coming up to drafting in this week.
Yeah, so we're going to give you a bit of news. We've talked about AJ Green. He's out, probably going to miss 1 to 4 weeks. There's a video for that, and the signing of
Yeah,
Alfred
take a
Morris.
look at that video if you want to see the in-depth read on AJ Green, and also previously look back at the first video we put out, just to give you an idea of the kind of thought process that we have here on the podcast and how that helps shape your drafting, and hopefully you can see some real insight in both those videos.
Yeah, okay, so let's start. Let's get through them quickly.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley got a hamstring injury, but he's now back, I believe.
Yeah, it was a small tweak. The unfortunate thing with we have to be really careful here because these hamstring injuries, you have to, as soon as somebody has one, you have to elevate the player slightly backwards. Now, it only has to be slightly, but you have to elevate them slightly backwards. You have to temper your enthusiasm because these things have a tendency to flare up and linger.
Yeah, soft tissue injuries come in.
So there is time, obviously, and
but Calvin, he's back.
He's back and training. So fingers crossed. It's so minor. It is exactly what is advertised. It's a small tweak. But if you see this go again between now and the start of the season, I think you have to be really a little bit more cautious and worry about this.
His brother Riley now joined the league. He's injured as well, so he's done his hamstring.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why that's happened. Just bad coincidence, I suppose. But fingers crossed, both will be back in time for the season. I'm quite interested to see how this Riley Ridley gets on in the Bears' offense. He interests me. I'm very interested to see who shapes up out of their team for this season. But again, I'm not putting any huge stock in him. I just think his ADP is his ADP. But worth watching to see how he does.
Now, this next one's a big one because it's Damien Williams.
Oh, it's massive.
And we already talked about the fear with him is, can he carry a load? Can he stay healthy?
My thing with him was I think I was very sceptical on his. I probably didn't give it. I mean, Al rightly highlights it is Kansas offense, and whoever gets the load in that offense worth seeing a video on this. Clearly, it's a star, no doubt, and in fact should be around one player, actually. I mean, Damien Williams was going around 2, but my concerns were, can he carry the load? I mean, I worry now because, all right, this isn't major.
He's missed a couple of days of practice.
Yeah,
already.
it isn't major, and I'm not denying that he should be ready for the start of the season. It does worry me. It just doesn't seem to show the durability that I want for my player. And I was thinking seriously about where I place him on my draft board, and I've had to temper all that and think, no, I can't.
If he comes back to training fairly quickly, then it's not so much a worry.
Does this very quickly open up value for the guys underneath? I mean,
Carlos Hyde taking first team snaps. You got Darrell Williams, haven't you?
And Darrell Williams has been lingering around since last year, so there's no reason why. Because Andy Reid has this habit of finding someone else underneath that can come out of nowhere. It's really difficult if you said that he didn't play the full year for whatever reason, Williams, it'd be really hard pressed. It wouldn't be that easy to say, oh, it's definitely Carlos Hyde. It wouldn't be that straightforward, would it? There.
No. I mean, Damien Williams is a clear number one if he's healthy, and then you'd probably think it's Carlos Hyde.
Has this affected your thought process around Damien Williams? Do you still think he's?
I'm going to monitor the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, we draft Saturday, so if he's not back before then,
it's massive.
I might have to temper it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I love the opportunity the guy's got. I can definitely see that, but I'm going to have to seriously think this through because the last thing I need to do is burn my number 1 or number 2 pick if I go wrong here, because it's a large league, 16-man. You could see someone stretching up to take a player like this. I can't stretch now. That would be ridiculous. I have to be very careful here now.
And perhaps if these are stretched properly, then...
Yeah.
Anyway, the next one, John Ross. Well, there's no surprise there.
Mr. Glass himself. I'm sure there are a few players who come out of the same college as him, the School of Glass, I think. I mean, is he ever healthy? I mean...
Well, he hasn't really been, has he?
I mean, that worries me.
He's had problems learning the actual playbook, and now he kind of got the grips with that. He's always injured.
I don't even think I can see me picking him. I took a flyer on him last year as a last round draft pick.
He's so reliable on his speed.
Yeah.
Then obviously not having a hamstring, having hamstring issues is a big worry, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what we're saying here is avoid. I'm certainly,
at least you're going to get him late now, aren't you?
A late round flyer, maybe.
If
you really like him late in a draft, fair enough. But I think if you're in a small league, there'll be better targets, and even if you're in a large league, I think I could still find better targets. So he's likely to be off my boards, I think, this year.
Right, let's talk Giants.
Wow, they've got a mess there.
They have been a complete mess in camp.
Wow. I mean, this goes back, right? So I just want people to remember something here, because we had this debate in this room, right? And I had to re-look at this video and really think about this. And I think this really shows some real insight. Go back and look at why I said that Saquon Barkley might not be the number one running back this year. And now look at the Giants' mess at wide receiver. I mean, seriously, as much as I love Saquon Barkley...
He's going to have all the touches now,
of course, but as much as I love Saquon Barkley, he's going to have every bit of attention now, 100%. And as for Eli, well, I think it's looking... I mean, he'll keep his job, but the question will be, the reason he keeps his job, is it because the quarterback coming in looks not so good? I mean, what a mess.
Well, watch
some of the video on that guy.
It was Brock Osweiler-esque, throwing the ball straight
off to the sideline. There was no one anywhere within 20 feet. I saw.
Let's give him a break.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it would be a lot to ask for him to come in this year and take over from Eli, wouldn't it?
Well, let's just talk through their team. So their wide receiver one, Sterling Shepard, broke his thumb.
Yep.
So he's going to miss time.
Corey Coleman was arguably the number 2.
No, well, Golden Tate had been the number 2.
Yeah, but
he's banned for 4 games.
He's got a 4-game PED violation,
which is appealing, but.
Yeah,
it doesn't look good.
He's going to miss 4 games. Let's be honest.
Corey Coleman's he's probably the third choice. He's tore his ACL. He's gone for the year.
Darius Slayton,
who's one of the rookie guys, he's missed time as well.
See, five weeks ago, I saw that he was the special teams guy, Darius Slayton, and that's what I was expecting from him, to be honest. But now with all these injuries, he does have a legitimate chance actually to do something.
If he gets
healthy. But do something.
Do you like Evan Ingram now? With everyone else dead?
Well, no, because I think you can... but I think this is where it gets easy for the defensive coordinators. You think, well, who is there to throw to? Not looking too good. We won't put our best player... We'll put a good player on Evan Ingram, I would. Put a speed man on him. Get someone on him that, take him out of the equation, cut down the space, make it difficult to throw the short ball to him. I think this is boding very badly for the Giants overall as a team. And I did say in my video, I feel that they could be wasting the best years of Barkley's career. And that really worries me now, that's so actually very accurate, because the poor bloke is going to receive all the attention. I'm sure you're right in that this is an elite guy. He's worth the top 4 pick. Of course he is. We're splitting hairs in that video. Naturally, we're not saying don't pick him. I'm just saying you just have to be a little bit mindful that it is going to be tough sledding for the guy, no matter how great you are. I mean, it's nothing worse than taking a whole team on your back, which he's now going to have to.
Okay, well, moving swiftly on. Chris Warren sort of broke out last pre-season. He got injured.
Bit of a fancy darling, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was put on IR, and then now he's come back and not in shape, and they weren't happy with his fitness, so he's been waived. So his dream of getting a job with the Raiders probably over. Emmanuel Butler's an interesting name at the Saints camp, the New Orleans Saints camp. Apparently, he's
been a strong showing, as he in
the
camp.
so he could be worth a pickup definitely in Dynasty.
Because they waived, didn't they, Cameron?
They've waived Cam Meredith as well, so there's a clearer path to that. He's never really recovered from his
certainly
injuries.
A good stash in Dynasty if you can pick him up in your Dynasty leagues, worth a look at.
Be
at
quick,
the very
because
least.
people are snapping them up as we speak.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, so like we say, Cam Meredith is gone. He never really recovered from his injury from the Bears and that early promise he showed. Moving on to the Eagles, Howard is...
well, it's gone the way I thought it would do. I mean, people...
He's taking all the snaps.
I
don't know. He said because he has been injured,
well,
Sanders. So
the problem with Sanders has been since day one. I mean, we've got to go all the way back for this, to be honest. We've got to go all the way back to December and talk about the rookies, and my thoughts on them. And I'm being deadly honest.
He didn't make your top 10, did he?
He didn't even make my top 10 list. And that sounded ridiculous then. I mean, seriously, that's bold.
I mean, it's bold even now.
And I still don't like him for this year because, as I say, I think there are so many Eagles running backs that you could see getting some work. I'm confident he'll have a role, Saunders. I'm sure there'll be something in there. There'll be spells, patches.
They like to mix them, mix them up.
But you can't. Can you rely on that for fantasy? And the answer is with any of them, not really.
They've got all these people again. They've got Smallwood. They've got Sproles back.
Clement's still there. They still like Clement. I mean, he really had his chance last year.
No one likes Clement. Yeah.
No, I don't even like him anymore now.
And
I've gone off him, and he had a chance last year and he blew it. So that's that. He had his chance.
Boston Scott as well.
When you're talking Jordan Howard, though, getting the first team reps, we're getting so close now to pre-season. Then you can't see anything else other than a kind of a split backfield of some kind. And what does that spell for fantasy? Mud, isn't it horrible? Mist, not a kind of player you want in your team. I mean. No, and it's a backfield to avoid right now, and that's all
I don't like their backfield.
I mean, if you can get Jordan Howard very cheap, like for example, I could totally understand, right? So if you were in a league where you'd gone very wide receiver heavy,
Zero RB.
then yeah, that's fair enough. You could grab him, and maybe he pans out to be useful for the first few weeks of the season.
If he
Great,
can get you 160
yeah,
or
great.
something like that.
Yeah, no problem with that. I'm okay with that because the strategy's logical. It makes sense, and maybe you capitalise with some late round running back picks that pan out for you. But
anyway, on with the news because
we must do it. Yeah, we must not digress. Anyway, enough of Jordan Howard.
Yeah, DK Metcalf, he's been showing out in camp.
You've been a big fan. He's doing everything he's asked.
I said you quite early. I quite like him,
and he's doing everything that you can ask of the player. And you have to be honest, and you have to say at this stage, moving into draft position, he has to move up your draft board because he's doing everything.
Like third or fourth in camp, I'd say.
Yeah,
and he's behind Moore and.
Well, the way that looks in the Eagles, I see him as a clear number 2 now. So that's how I see it.
He has been the number 2 with Lockett and two.
And you said rightly, he's doing 2-on-2 drills with people now. So I mean, when you're doing that, matching up against some of the best corners they've got, and Seattle have got some bloody good corners,
and still balling out,
and still doing everything you can ask. I think that bodes well for a player that can explode.
Because he is a rookie wide receiver. Is he? What is he?
Well, you don't want to overpay for any rookie wide receiver because it's year one. I mean, get them at their ADP value. Okay, if you want to stretch up half a round or a round because you really believe in the player, I can live with that because none of the rookie wide receivers are going exorbitantly high. That's going to cost you the top end of your draft board. That's fine. I'm okay with that. It's worth a risk. But you have to be realistic and remember something important. Very few pan out to be anything more than spot players. And that's just the way it is. Although I think DK Metcalf really has a chance. So I wouldn't mind that pick. I think that's a good pick.
Okay. Moving on. Austin Hooper's been talked about Matt Ryan, but that's...
Well, it's a pack tight end. I mean, the thing is with their situation, Atlanta playing 13 games in a dome, with the way that Hooper plays, again, it's in patches, 3 or 4 catches normally on average, and depends on how many yards he gives you.
But that's serviceable. There,
it's perfectly serviceable. If he's being talked up in camp, well, that's very good of the quarterback to do that. But I think this is a veteran, so I mean, I'm not worried about Hooper. If you get Hooper late in a draft as your tight end one, that's perfectly okay. Yeah. He'll give you serviceable numbers. Don't go crazy. Whether he's being talked up or not, just tight ends don't go crazy.
Dante Moncrief's been injured in camp as well, so that could set him back in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, they were all talking him up as being like arguably, possibly somebody who could shake out and become the number 2 over Washington, which was a strong possibility before the injury. But with the injury now, missing training camp and everything else, I've never been
Washington
a
and
huge fan of
Deontay Johnson and
Ryan
Switzer and all these.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Moncrief. He just seems to he's a bit glass to me. And one of them players I can't rely on. And another albatross name, I'll say. I mean, whenever I had him, and I don't have a lot of shares of him, but when I've had them, they've been real rubbish. So no, I can't trust this bloke.
Just keep an eye on his injury.
Just see what happens. He might pan in something this year, but I'm not worried if I miss it.
Another rookie there, Deontay Johnson might.
Yeah, I like. We talked him in our late round rookie flyers.
He's been doing quite well in camp, apparently.
Yeah, we talked about him in our late round rookie flyers. We're worth a look for this year's video. I would rather see somebody. I'd rather take a shot on him late than any of those other names.
Okay, well there you go. Emmanuel Sanders is back. He was running. He was running on the sidelines first few days of training, but now he's back in 11 on 11 drills. So that is very good news. And he is a guy that's going to be going. Well, he's later than he should in draft.
He's going quite late. He's going very late in draft boards. How late? 6th round in. Oh, actually, no. Sorry, apologies. 7th round at the moment.
I think it's 8th.
Or 8th in a large league.
11 in bigger leagues.
Seems quite cheap. I mean, very cheap.
Incredible value.
Great value. So if you can get him at his ADP or slightly earlier, then I'm very okay with that. There is an injury concern. He is 33 now, is he? 32, 33 years old?
31, 32 maybe.
So he's in that range where, the best years are probably behind him, but it's an offense that needs him badly, and to recover from this injury as quickly as he has, that is some recovery. It's remarkable.
But he's a player. I mean,
he's a baller.
He reminds me a bit like Steve Smith.
He's a baller, isn't he? I mean,
he did his Achilles. He still came back and put up good numbers. And I think
Emmanuel can do that.
Yeah.
He was on really good pace last year before the injury. He was doing great.
He's just a class player.
Yeah.
Theo Riddick got released, so Detroit.
Well, this helps.
We said this in our video when we were talking up Kerry and Johnson, who I'm particularly a big fan of, and I think Sean
warming very nicely.
Yeah.
This helps him a lot
because especially in PPR, because those
Theo Riddick is well regarded in PPR circles as a bit of a darling to grab late as a stash because he always gives you good numbers and always returned good value for his ADP and often would help people win leagues, which is true. But now that that's gone, and I look at their roster and think, well, they're pretty clear they want to ride Kerryon Johnson this year. So
I mean, CJ Anderson can catch
it's
as well.
encouraging.
But,
very encouraging for
and I
Kerryon
was talking
Johnson.
up Zach Zenner a bit for goal line. That would be my only worry.
Well, let's not worry about that yet. Let's see how this plays out. But certainly for Kerryon Johnson, there's a real value when you can do all three phases of the game for the running back: block, pass, and catch. Bodes well for the season ahead. So I'm beginning to think, good second round target, Kerryon.
Theo Riddick, he visited the Saints. Didn't get a deal there. He's visiting the Broncos as well. That's we'll wait and see.
I think he'll probably end up with a job somewhere. And wouldn't it be surprising if it was the Eagles? Wouldn't surprise me, knowing what they're doing. Anything's possible.
Well, exactly.
But there you go.
They can't have too many, can they? How many they want? They've got about 50 already.
Well, they like to monopolise those stud.
If they own every running back in the league, it's a cunning tactic.
Yeah, eventually you thin the market down and drive the price up, I suppose. Yeah.
Deshaun Hamilton, he's also pulled a hamstring in Denver, so.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was becoming a bit of a strange one. I've seen him being talked up in fantasy circles because of his performances last year, and I'm not denying that the guy there is something there, and there's an opportunity at that particular situation in Denver. But the problem is that you've also got to remember they've still got the rookie Colton Sutton from last year, and
Cortland
Sutton. We haven't seen the best of him yet, so we still don't know how good he could be. I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but one thing I do know is a very, very ugly, horrible situation there in Denver. The only bright spot, thank God, is Philip Lindsay. Still a bright spot for me.
Manuel Sanders being back, bright spot as well.
But there you go. So of course, Manuel Sanders. That goes with that. So two bright spots.
Well, we had someone commenting saying that Flacco was a big improvement on last year's QB.
Well, it is. Yeah, I mean there's no doubt about it.
It's a fair point.
It is a massive improvement.
Is it the Flacco of old, or is it the Flacco with a bad back that's seen better days?
He's a very good quarterback in terms of he's a good game manager quarterback. I think he can do exactly what the coaches ask him to do. He'll deliver exactly what you want as a coach, and there's nothing wrong with that. That can win you games. He can certainly improve. Certain people will stand out really well. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders, if he's fully back, will certainly benefit from that.
Well, even with Keenum, he didn't have a bad year, did he? No. He was number one wide receiver till he went down. Yeah, or he was close to it.
He can't do any harm at all. The situation. So I know I'm not disagreeing. I think this is a big improvement on last year. I'm not saying that's a lot to overcome, but it just is a better improvement. So it should help them.
Probably the last bit of news we're going to give about Jamison Crowder. He started really well in the Jets camp, but unfortunately he's picked up an injury and he's having an MRI. So he's missed a lot of time the last few years.
It doesn't look too good. He's
a very good player.
Yeah, it doesn't look too good for him actually. The MRI. I mean, first reports of that are looking a bit worrying, and we'll know more. But it wouldn't surprise me. There's something torn or gone there. That could well be. I
was reading Quincy Enunwa was having an uncharacteristic camp and dropping everything as well. So
this doesn't help you, does it? When you're coming up to draft day, looking at players that aren't doing
it. But on the plus side for the Jets, then Bell is apparently looking the part.
Yeah.
He did 2 fitness tests. He's done 2 drugs tests as well.
Yeah. Well, they overly drug tested him.
Yeah, they've done 2 days running. Took him. It's a bit weird because they actually take him out of the practice session rather than doing it afterwards or before.
Without being coarse, there's an old thing in the NFL, and it's a horrible thing, but they nickname them the piss man. I'm sorry to say that, that's what they nickname in the NFL, and they hate them at camps. But it's meant to be random. You're not meant to know they're going to turn up, but to do it two days in a row or within a very short period of time, two of these tests.
I suppose he missed all that last year.
They're rightly concerned about him, but obviously if he's passed those, which he looks like he would have done, they wouldn't have allowed him to continue.
We wouldn't know yet, would we? So.
Well, I think we would have found out pretty quick. They would have soon pulled him from camp. But I worry. The only thing I worry about is the Jets. But he's got every opportunity. He's climbing boards because other running backs' values are dropping the other way. With Ezekiel Elliott, Melvin Gordon news, Bell will climb up, DJ will climb up. You can't blame drafters for doing that because it just makes sense.
No, no, stop doing that.
Sorry, it just does.
Stop talking Bell up. You
have to talk him up. He's going up. He's moving up the board. He's inside that top 8 now. He'll climb a bit more yet. It's not finished.
Okay, well, we hope we've updated you with all the latest camp news, so just things to keep an eye on if you're...
If you spot any new camp news over the next 48 hours or this week, actually, then do let us know. Put a comment in because we can then update our next... Because news will be a relevant thing every single week for the podcast, and hopefully it's...
And we'll hopefully give you a couple of new names to look after. There's a couple in Denver. One's called Winfrey, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the other one's... I think he's called McCleary, maybe? He's been doing quite well, but... they're going to be behind Cortland Sutton and
there'll
Manuel
be a lot
Sanders,
of
so-
there'll be a lot of beat writers that will give you names at this time of the year. You just have to be careful. My advice.
But that's part of the fun of fantasy, especially if you play Dynasty.
I've got one tip about beat writers actually that I find very useful, which is this: look at their records over the last few years. Look at beat writers' records over the last few years. It's quite documented, so you can check which ones you trust who have give you better advice. That helps.
Where would you do that?
That's easy enough. Just research it, yeah, absolutely. A lot of people have started commenting on these.
Can't
beat
you
writers.
research and tell me?
Well, I will do, but off air, maybe.
For our viewers,
if I'm kind. No, not yet. We're this side of drafting.
Okay,
Other people have to do.
The truth comes out.
Other people have to do the work. For I'm being very kind, telling them this bit of information. I mean, and you can use that to your advantage. Yeah, beat writers. There's a lot of heat on them for this year because a lot of them just say anything for the sake of it. A lot of fantasy enthusiasts, rightly so, have got more wise to it and have started saying, okay, let's see which beat writers have actually commented that's been made sense. Which players have made the 53? Which players they've commented on doing? There's a lot of talk on that now, and that's a really good thing.
I tend to deal. You do get caught up in the hype of people saying stuff.
It's so easy.
I say you're going to deal with facts, but it's not.
Yeah,
true.
that's why I tend not to rush. I mean, I tend to take my time a little bit with some of these things. There are times you miss out, but I'd rather miss out occasionally and then swoop in at the right moment and take the player that I really want. So it's all about what you want to do, particularly with beat writers. But I'm very cautious. A lot of stuff been written on them this year, narrowing down the ones that are worth looking at, the ones that are just giving out any old thing that they see, which isn't such strong advice at the end of the season.
Well,
so take a look.
If you've seen or heard anything interesting, in camp, about rookies, let me know.
Particularly if you've gone to camps. Don't
tell Sean.
No, please tell me.
Just let me know in the comments.
Yeah, but
I'll stop Sean looking at them. If you've enjoyed the video, please leave a like.
Yeah, leave a like or comment out.
We've got lots of good stuff coming up, so subscribe to the channel. We've got all our rankings coming up and our do not drafts and our...
Yeah, we've been asked about the rankings and we will go through all the players and we'll put them in order for you, particularly during this month of August because you need that information. And the bold prediction list will start coming out really after this weekend.
Well, it's up to you, isn't it?
Yeah, we should start putting them out quite soon because I think that information you need, and I don't think it does any harm at that stage. Once we've gone through our first draft, it's not going to really matter for us.
Okay, thanks very much for watching.
Thank you.